In an interview with Piers Morgan, which airs tonight, Captain Tom's daughter, Hannah Ingram Moore, admits she kept £800,000 from his book sales. But that has been his wish. Now, let's have a look at what else she has to say, shall we?
Do you feel any qualms being paid from public donations?
No. I should have said no.
Neither of you have ever made any money directly from the foundation for personal gain?
Not a penny.
You've appeared at awards ceremonies.
I was paid £18,000 for that.
And how much did the charity get?
£2,000.
Now, so, yeah, I mean,
Captain,
Captain Tom raised millions by walking around his garden, I think 39 million for the NHS. He wrote 3 books. One was Tomorrow Will Be a Better Day, which is his memoir. And in the foreword, he wrote to that how honoured he was to be raising money at his age for the NHS. That's in the foreword of that particular book. Now, Hannah Moore is saying, no, Dad wrote these books and he wanted us to have the money as a family. Wilfred, what do you think?
I tell you what, there's some big lessons to be learned
Can I just make one thing clear, given how feisty the first part was? Now, she hasn't done anything illegally wrong.
No, she hasn't done...
Morally wrong is the question.
OK, yeah, so she hasn't done anything illegal. But the big lesson here is this, is that when you get a national hero like that, you have to sort of realise that it's no longer personal. It's about the nation. Everybody has a say because it's their money. It's their money that actually they're spending. And the lesson is this, is that if you're related to someone, you should not be involved in that charity. You should actually leave it to professionals, stand aside, and you cannot mix personal with public interest. And that's where they've got it wrong. That quote about actually, she charged herself at 18,000 and the charity got 2,000 is not good. It just isn't. It just leaves a real sour taste. And it's not understanding it isn't their hard-earned money. Good people put their hands in their pockets to help a cause. They didn't do it to help to pay her. And that's where they've got sort of confused by it all.
Georgie, Hannah is saying, though, that, you know, these books weren't sold on the proviso that all the money raised from the sale of these books was going to the NHS charities. It was indeed a separate account that the money went to that wasn't linked to the fundraising charity. And she's saying, look, Dad just wanted to look after his grandchildren. She's got 2 teenage children as well. So
I know, I honestly do feel quite sorry for her. I think she's made some incorrect decisions along the way. I think she's definitely been dazzled by some big paychecks, but I have empathy for that. I can imagine that I would also be dazzled by big paychecks. You've got to remember that this family, you know, did an amazing thing during lockdown. And yes, Captain Tom was sort of the figurehead of it all.
He was living with his daughter at the time.
Exactly. They, you know, he wouldn't have been able to do everything that he did without that sort of really fundamental support. And what they raised for the NHS was, as you said, 39 million, and every single penny of that 39 million went to NHS charities. They then set up this separate charity to carry on raising money for it. And then obviously it all got a bit sort of, there's a grey area around where the proceeds of the book would go. And they claim that they never said to the public that if you bought this book, you'll be putting money to charity. Again, there's a forward in it that probably the wording of it makes you assume that it would. But this family are devastated by what's happened. Like, if you watch any more of the clips, that honestly, they're crying. They say they've had death threats. They feel awful about it. They wish they never did it. And you've got to realise the mental health and strain a family goes through to be propelled as the nation's hero in, you know, less than a year, and then to be completely slashed from that. And they, you know, are having like their kids are affected by it. I really do just feel sorry for the family. I think they've made some poor decisions, but I don't feel like they deserve the treatment they're getting.
Well, Wilfred, I mean, we all took Captain Tom to our hearts. He did an amazing thing, and he was such a lovely man. He was knighted by the Queen, wasn't he? Do you think that this really has tarnished him and what he achieved?
No, I don't think it's tarnished his reputation. And I think what you've just said is that the NHS actually did receive money from what he did. So that is good. I mean, for me, the big lesson for us all is that there comes a time when we no longer can look at ourselves as private people, is that we have a bigger responsibility to the public. Because even that book, they would never have earned that money from that book if actually the public hadn't helped to create this sort of hero. So they wouldn't have earned it. They wouldn't have got that £800,000. So does it really belong to them? That's where I draw the line. But
it did happen in a very short space of time, which I think you can... I wouldn't completely excuse some of the decisions they've made, because, I mean, they did ridiculous things. They built, like, a spa, not with the charity's money.
There is the spa and the swimming pool in the garden.
There is the spa and the swimming pool, which, again, doesn't look good. But, you know, with that they paid for that themselves. They just put it on the
But would they have been able to pay for it if they hadn't got the money?
Let's bring someone else into this debate. Let's hear now from broadcaster Narinder Kaur. Narinder, you think this has tarnished Captain Tom's legacy, don't you? Go on. Why do you think that?
I think he was a very public face of a very cynical exploitation of the public. They pulled on the public's heartstrings. COVID was a very strange time. We were all very vulnerable. And you bring along an old man parading around the garden, and we, the public, are putting hands in our pockets for an NHS that the government actually should have been paying for. And we've given millions. And your panelists are saying, well, it did go to the NHS. Actually, it went to NHS charities, not NHS trusts. Now, when it goes into charities, we still don't actually know where it's gone. And for this family, I mean, look, I do feel sorry for the children. But Dawn, I feel that actually you got paid £18,000 for a PA and £2,000 went to the charity. That's disgusting. We don't know where this £38 million actually. I would like a breakdown. And Penguin Random House, the publishers, will not say whether any money of this book has gone to charities. So basically, the public, the vulnerable public at that time, have been putting money, hands in their pocket to line their spa, sauna, house. £800,000 is a lot of money. Nearly £1 million.
Narinder, now, can I just take you back to the beginning when you started? You said it was you implied it was the whole thing was a cynical manipulation of the public. I mean...
I don't think that's...
Do you think Captain Tom was...
Yes. From day one, I said...
Hold on. You think Captain Tom was manipulating the public?
I think he was manipulated. Poor old man, put badges on him, added wartime rhetoric, and actually Bob's your uncle. Let's get the public to pay for the NHS. I think he was used by everyone around him. I think it was a cynical scam. It was a scam to pay for the NHS.
No, that's a bit over the top.
Completely. It was a scam from day one.
Narinder.
The public were fooled.
Narinder. No, you've lost me there.
Narinder, lovely. It's not a scam. No one is saying...
From day one.
No one is saying it's a scam. Thank you. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Thank you very much, Narinder, for a very, very strong opinion on that one. Right, OK. Now, just again, for the avoidance of a doubt, no one has done anything illegal here. We're asking whether it's morally a good thing to do. So, OK, let's go straight to some callers. Blimey, it's a bit heated today, isn't it? Virginia, you're in Kent. Virginia, what would you like to say about this?
Well, I've been listening to Narinder as well, and I do agree with a little bit of what she said. Captain Tom's daughter was a businesswoman, a successful businesswoman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The husband was a successful businessman.
Yes.
They got a lot of money. They live in a big house. They knew what they were doing. It wasn't like they were poor and they had this bit of money they could cut. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew they shouldn't have taken that money, but they took it in any case. And I also think that Captain Tom, they probably came up with this really quaint idea of him walking up and down and getting money. And then I think the dollar signs started showing. And I know they have raised a lot of money for the NHS, but they've got a lot of money for themselves as well.
Don't you think without the family's expertise in business, as you've rightly pointed out, that maybe Tom wouldn't have been able to raise that much money? Maybe they helped him in his efforts, and their organisational skills.
They helped him with his efforts, but they definitely profited themselves.
That's not
taking that. And it has sullied his reputation. They're now only sorry about it now because they've been caught.
Right, Virginia, I mean, they did give up an awful lot of time, and, Captain Tom did live with his family, was very close to his grandchildren. I love it when everyone gets involved in our debate. That's exactly what we like to hear.
I know. The doorbell's just gone, so the dog's gone mad.
We'll let you go and answer the doorbell then, Virginia. Thank you very much for your call, lovely. Oh gosh, but I mean,
So I don't feel like it sullied his reputation, but what I do think is I feel like he'd be incredibly sad to know what his legacy's done to his immediate family, because I'm sure he would never have wanted it to end like this. So when I think of his legacy, I think if he knew what was happening now, he would be really heartbroken that it's ended the way it is. And you know, she says that he specifically said that he wanted her to keep the profits from the book. So again, I'm sure that if he knew that decision then played out in the way that it has, he'd be really upset by that.
What would you do? I mean, what would you do if you were Hannah and the family now? How would you try and make it up? Should they pay the money back?
Well, I feel like they thought this interview would maybe solve some of that, you know, them sort of coming, but it feels like it's backfired. Piers has really gone into them and has released alongside it an article in the paper saying, you know, they are immoral and what they've done is wrong. And
we haven't seen the show, like it's going out on TV tonight, so watch and make your opinions. All we're doing is judging Hannah's interview in a newspaper today. So let's talk to Dennis. Dennis, you're in Leeds. Good morning, Dennis. What would you like to say?
Yeah, good morning. Yeah. Well, I'd just like to disagree with what Niranda Carr said regarding the public were exploited.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think that's a horrible thing to say. That, you know, Captain Tom raised a lot of money for the NHS, 39 million. Nobody's going to disagree with that. It was a wonderful thing he did. But, you know, he got the publicity and people supported him. You know, they weren't exploited.
Did you give money? Did you give money, Dennis? Did you donate to Tom? Did you donate?
I believe I did. Yes, somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
But no, the family they've got some money from the books. You know, whether it was everybody intends to look after the family when they go, and whether they've, you know, the way they've used it may be wrong, but everybody wants to provide for all they leave behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what do you think of that, Wilfred? I mean, surely that's an understandable point.
I didn't actually know they were business people. Because they're business people, actually, I'm starting to change my mind because they were actually manipulated. And what I cannot get out of my mind, how could somebody justifiably go and charge themselves out for £18,000 for an appearance and then the charity gets 2,000? That does not feel right. I need someone to explain that to me, because that is a moral decision, isn't it?
We've got to be careful about saying the word manipulated. And so we're questioning whether this is morally the right thing to do,
morally,
how
that's
they
what
have behaved.
and that's what I'm saying. Is it morally acceptable to say, I'm doing something for a charity, but I'm going to get more of that than the charity's going to get? When you're doing things for the charity, you're giving your time for free.
Not always. No,
that's what I would be doing. You're giving it for free.
You're a nice human.
Oh, I'm glad I am, but that's what you'd expect if you're doing something for a charity.
But many celebrities will endorse charity things and get paid for it.
That doesn't make sense to me. If you're going to be charitable, be charitable. Don't then expect an income, a fee for it.
There are many charity bosses in this country who pay themselves £100,000 a year.
Yeah, but they're doing the job of running a charity.
But to be fair to Hannah, she's not here to defend herself, obviously. To be fair to Hannah, she was CEO of that charity. She was running that charity.
Well, that for me doesn't sit well. You cannot be the CEO if it's something that was your father. It just is the wrong thing to do. You need to be separate from that. That's where the mistake was.
I think they have admitted that they did it wrong.
Yeah.
So I think they do know they've sort of made some failings along the way.
But just one very quick answer. Captain Tom Moore himself, him personally tarnished?
No, you can't. No, he was a real hero.
Exactly.
It's a shame that it's ending like this, though.
Exactly.
It's a shame.